Well, cheers, mate. Good to catch up.
Yes. Again?
I did the very first beer with Starlo with Glen Stewie about 2 years ago. And I said at the time that one of the things I wanted to do was come back and revisit some of the people that I did a beer with Starlo with and see what had changed in the intervening years. Well, we talked primarily about Murray cod fishing last time, and that's what I want to talk to you again about. A few changes in the cod fishery?
Yes, definitely, Steve. 2 years ago, obviously the take-up from the general public has grown. Pressure has increased in a lot of the waterways, so that's probably been one of the major changes, I'd say.
So you're running into a lot more anglers out there who are actively targeting cod now?
Yes, yeah, definitely. So that probably changes a few things. Obviously, you can't sort of all be in the same area. So yeah, it's just changed a few things that myself and a few others have done, I suppose.
And is the pressure having an effect on the fish, do you think?
I think they are learning. Yes, definitely.
Do you think social media has played a role in all of that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's a two-edged sword, I suppose. Everybody who catches a nice fish wants to put it up there and be seen and heard, I suppose. I've actually had a few mates that were fishing quite a bit early in the piece. They're still fishing quite a bit, but they're just not posting as much.
And I know other guys are quite careful about not posting immediately when they catch a fish or whatever. They'll sit on the shot for a couple of weeks or a couple of months and then kind of dribble them out so that it hasn't got that immediacy thing.
Yes, that's right. And probably a few background checks before you take a photo. But I mean, it's all good. It's been fantastic for industry. I mean, a couple of years ago, if you went into a shop and were chasing, big swim baits or rods that would cast, that sort of gear, it was a bit of a struggle. Whereas now, it's you can walk into just about any shop and get pretty much what you want.
Well, that's got to have been good for the industry because you're talking fairly big ticket items, and it's also got to have been good for the local lure making industry too.
Oh yes, the local lure craft industry in Australia has definitely got on the bandwagon. I mean, you're seeing handcrafted stuff like this getting pushed out. Yeah, guys are fishing them and catching fish on them, so it's good.
Yeah, and most people are doing the right thing in terms of the fish. I mean, we're talking big fish here, so they have to go back. Are you seeing any sign of any mortality amongst the fish from poor handling or anything like that?
I have. It's limited, but I have come across a few fish, and I think that's probably another thing that's changed. Well, not so much changed, but people, they just probably haven't really thought about too much before they go out. I mean, if you're catching yellow belly and redfin and smaller fish, and then all of a sudden there's this, metre plus fish, and you haven't thought about what you're going to do to get it on board, get it in the boat, take a photo. If you haven't thought about that before you've got in the boat, then you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I think you're right. They're a seriously large fish. I remember when Joe got her 115 and we lifted it into the boat, and it took both of us to lift the fish in the net into the boat. And you're suddenly confronted with that idea that you've got to handle that fish without hurting it, without getting hurt yourself, because the lure's still in its gob and there's a couple of big hooks there.
Yep.
It's a bit daunting if you don't have a game plan, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. Actually, a lot of myself and a couple of mates now, we obviously fishing with a pretty big net, rubberized net. We'll get the fish in the net. And a couple of guys have even got special little stuff on their boat where they just hook it in, leave the fish in the net.
Nice.
And then you go out, get your camera organised, ready, have a yarn to your mate, where you're going to sit, get it on board, quick photo, back in the water.
That's fantastic. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about the American muskie fishery as we progress, because I know you see a lot of parallels there. One of the things I love about that fishery is they've been doing it for a long time, and they have these cradles and things that they put the fish in. I think we probably need to start moving in that direction as well, don't you?
It's probably not a bad idea. Yeah. I mean, muskies, they're long and skinny. Yeah. Maybe something a little bit deeper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I have thought about some stuff along those lines. Yeah.
Now, as far as techniques, okay, so the fish have wised up a bit, and there's more pressure on them. What are you finding are the things that you need to concentrate more on yourself to guarantee that you're still going to be able to get an occasional fish?
Get out of your boat.
Yeah.
It's been something that I've done a fair bit of over the years. And yeah, it's been a major for me this year. Actually, not being in a boat has opened up quite a few things.
So you think there's an opening there for people without boats to just go to some of these impoundments and just drive into spots and walk the banks and they're going to catch fish?
100%, yeah. It's obviously you are limited. I mean, you've got to have fish feeding in reasonably shallow water. But in saying that, we've had times where a little bit steeper banks. After that bite window, and they've moved back onto a steeper bank, you're still in with a chance.
Yeah. I know you're a real stickler for being as quiet as possible, whether you're in the boat or on the bank or whatever. And it's of course easier to stay quiet when you're on the bank because you haven't got that big amplifier, have you? That's going to send out noises. But is that becoming even more important, do you think, as more anglers get on the water?
Definitely, Steve. Yeah, if you're in a boat. I think the bigger fish, I think they learn by association. So if they've been caught or, a fish in the vicinity has been caught, they, I think anyway, learn through that association with that noise in a boat. And I think you can shut things down pretty quickly. So yeah, being stealthy on board your boat is, we talked about it in the first one, but it's something that I really, really concentrate on pretty hard.
What do you think about sounders? Will you turn your sounder off sometimes if you know the area? And the time of day thing, it's still that change of light period is still your favourite time?
Most consistent, I think, yeah, that early morning bite window, definitely. Late afternoon, still pretty good, but I'd have to say that early morning bite is still probably pretty good.
Do you fish through the night much?
No, generally speaking, only do that 4:30 to 6:30, 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'm generally off the water by 8:30.
Yeah.
But in saying that, this year I know at Wyangler, with the dirtier water, there was quite a few guys just going out middle of the day sort of stuff, and they were catching fish. Yeah, surprised me, but I don't know whether it was something to do with the dirty water or they're just more anglers on the water and they were just coming across fish. But it was a bit of a bite thing there. Yeah.
You still think though that winter's the big fish season?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's when they push shallow. It's definitely a lot easier when they're in 5 to 10 feet of water.
And they're only up there for one reason.
That's it.
To eat something, isn't
it? Yeah, for sure.
Now, we touched on the muskie thing. I know you've been reading and following a little bit about the American muskie fishery. And for those who don't know, the muskie is a close relative of the northern pike. It grows considerably larger than pike. They call it the fish of 1,000 casts in North America, which is very much like a Murray cod. They're one of those fish you've got to put a lot of time into, and they use very similar tackle. What are some of the parallels and some of the lessons that you think we can take from the muskie fishery? When we talked the first time, you said that in some ways we're probably only just starting to scratch the surface and that there are some humongously big fish out there, and I've certainly seen some photos in the last little while of some enormous fish, definitely over the old 100-pound mark. Do you think that we've hit the limit yet?
No, definitely not, Steve. Yep. I've had one or two encounters this season that, they were genuine, big fish.
Yeah.
And I just, was just a bit unlucky with a few things and didn't go to plan, I suppose. But, and, a few mates as well that had some encounters with some would have been, some pretty big fish. And we mentioned it in the first one we did. More guys are doing it. They're actually going out and targeting those big fish now. So it's definitely going to be something we're going to see a bit more of.
Well, there's no sign of it. No sign of it coming to an end. I mean, it's a great fishery, and I guess we've really, especially with the impoundment stuff, we've got to take our hats off to some of the early fisheries managers who saw the writing on the wall and created this fishery, basically, didn't they?
Oh, definitely, Steve. It's we owe a great sense of gratitude, I think, towards those guys in the early days. They had the foresight to see what was available, I suppose, and the opportunities that were there, and I definitely feel that. Yeah, it's definitely been a good thing.
Well, we've come through some dry times, and a lot of the impoundments have been down at fairly low levels, and now we've had some nice rain events and a fairly wet winter behind us. Are you optimistic about the next year or two as far as the cod fishery goes?
Oh, definitely. I think next season is next winter season is shaping up really well. I think we'll get what they say, drought on the land is drought in the water. So. I mean, I think we'll get an explosion in bait fish numbers, redfin and carp, and all those species just explode. And I think it'll be, really, really good.
Mate, I'll drink to that.
Cheers.
Cheers.